was finishing up. So it's kind of almost like a grad assistant position. And that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
I wanted to coach college basketball. And I was like, man, like this is an awesome opportunity. I'm going to, I got the foot in the door, like, let's go. So yeah, I went on staff, coached the whole year. And then that next year I was on the coaching staff again, helping out with recruiting and just having more responsibilities added to my plate. The longer I was with the program in a coaching role. But yeah, every night I'd be drinking. Like it wasn't to the point where I look back now, I'm like, yeah, I really had a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So with that then, what is it about addiction in general and like maybe even men in general that like we kind of lie to ourselves about that kind of thing?
Man, I think men have this misconception that like we have to have everything figured out and we have to be moving forward with everything and everything has to be okay. And we lie to ourselves that if we're doing X, Y, and Z, everything is okay.
Yeah. I can still coach.
I can still hold a job. I can still do this. So I'm doing my responsibilities as a man.
Yeah.
Which isn't even,
Right.
I look back now, it's like, man, we lie to ourselves,
Yeah.
You search the scriptures. That's, there's a lot different from biblical manhood to what the world presents that a man should be.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I still have it figured out. Like I'm still working and, as my story goes on, you'll see that become more and more evident.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that I think that's one of the main ways we deceive ourselves.
Yeah.
Is like,
and that's absolutely true. Like just being in a place where you want to look like you have it all together. Because, I mean, there are some things that, even biblically a man is supposed to be.
a provider.
Yeah. And so if I'm doing all that, I must be fine.
Yeah. Yep. But it's how you provide. And being a provider isn't always the money you bring in, but it's,
well, and of course, the root of it all is the relationship with God, and how that's going. So, what about your journey now? And we'll talk kind of like where you kind of turned a corner and stuff, but talk about like is there any kind of spiritual battle going on at this point, through all of this? I mean, is it even registering spiritually with you?
During this point, not really. I mean, I was gung-ho, basketball, sports, career, women, and that's all I focused on. And all of those things I had. So I was like, and so
what do I need?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a spiritual battle going on. Right. I know there was, I just wasn't
engaged in it.
Wasn't engaged in it at all and didn't really, but the Lord was pursuing me hard and I didn't know it, but I'm a believer that he was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I coaching and that, and I ended up being asked to step down due to a relationship I had with one of the other coach's sisters that she did not know about, or he did not know about, and so yeah, basically I got fired from my job. And
was that rock bottom for you?
No. Should have been.
It should have been. Not quite yet, huh?
No. Far from it. I shouldn't say it wasn't a rock bottom. It was a rock bottom to a point where it's like, all right, well, I'm done here in Minnesota.
Sure.
What next?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to kind of, I mean, I hit a pretty low point there. I mean, I stopped going to school. I had enough money from scholarships and student loans that I decided to not find a job and live a few months just at that apartment. And I literally didn't do anything. Like I would go to the gas station every morning, pick up some alcohol, whether that be beer or vodka or anything like that, and go home and drink it. And then money ran out, so called my parents and said, hey,
yeah, help me out.
I don't know what to do. Don't really have money for this, and I kind of messed up. So Dad drove up to Minnesota, and they were living up in Milwaukee at the time. Came up, picked me up, brought me back home, or to where they were living. And I started to clean up. So I was living at home now. I was like, I'd probably gained 25 pounds. Like I was rough. I was like, man, I need to get back in shape. Like what's going on here? So I was living there.
You're in the process of cleaning up, sort of?
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Like, this is like the crazy, I guess the addiction mindset of it is like, all right, well, I'm not drinking anymore, so I'm going to go to the gym every single day. And, like, now I'm, like, focused on working out, losing weight, and so that's really what I focused on. And then on top of that, I started working at Brager Ford, started selling cars. And I think and Grace, my wife, always tells this to me. She's like, you never really had any consequences for the life you were living.
Sure.
And I was like, because I started working at Brager Ford, and I ended up being really good at selling cars. So I'm 24 at this time, and still living at home, but started working at Brager Ford and started selling cars, and I started making real money, like more than I've ever made in my life, and probably more than I make now. Like, I'm 24 years old.
And more than you needed at the time, I'm sure.
I'm 24 years old. I making more money than I know what to do with, and that was a bad thing.
Yeah.
So got hooked up with some guys there and started drinking there. And I'd say that working there started the kind of downfall.
Yeah.
Because I was making good money. And it started out as just going out every night after work and drinking at the bars and coming home. And through all that, my parents moved up to Door County. They took a church there, and so I moved in with Grandma. So it was just me, her, and my cousin Jessica before she got married. And so I didn't really have anyone that I was worried about coming home to.
No accountability.
No accountability at all. So I'd come home every morning at 2 a.m. from the bar, and that slowly turned into going out for lunch and started drinking a little bit at lunch. And because I was so good at my job, like my bosses, even that we in the addiction, we enable, which is basically allowing you to do things that you shouldn't be doing. And but yeah, so I'd come back after having 3 or 4 beers at lunch. My bosses would smell it on me, and they'd be like, "Yeah, as long as you're selling cars, we don't care." So
sure. Yeah.
So I was drinking at work, and through all of that, it just got it got pretty bad. I met a girl at that dealership. She worked at the dealership as well in the finance office, and we started seeing each other. And I was drinking pretty heavily, and it got to a point where Grandma came home one night, and I was laying on the couch, passed out, and there was a bottle of vodka next to me, and she couldn't wake me up. And I think I was fine. I woke up the next day, but got home that next day, and she's basically like, you can't keep living here like this. She's like, I love you to death, but it was a really, look back now, it had to have been such a hard conversation for her to have. And she basically said, she's like, you can't live here anymore. Like, I can't support
right.
this.
Yeah.
So
the
I was,
opposite of what you were
yeah,
saying about your bosses.
Yeah.
She didn't want to enable you.
Exactly. So I was like, all right, cool. I have plenty of money. Like moving out's not an issue. So that's what I chose to do. And I ended up moving in with the girl that I wasn't supposed to be permanent, ended up being somewhat permanent, but yeah, I ended up moving in with her. And so I had a couple tries at trying to get sober.
Was there a particular was the girl the reason you were trying to do this? Or I mean, like, why?
So the first time I started, it got to a point where I was drinking probably a liter, or the first time around, probably about a half a liter of vodka a day. So I would drink in the morning, drink in the afternoon, drink at night.
More or less, not ever sober.
Not ever sober. And I was starting to have health issues because of it. And the first time around, the girl that I was dating, she knew it before we started dating. And she's like, look, I'm not going to try to change you. Like, I knew who you were when we got together, but I was just like, man, like I'm going to kill myself. Like I need to change.
Again, kind of that self-preservation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and it was actually during this time, man, the Lord was pursuing me hard. I'd remember just midnight, just like sitting up and being like, what am I doing? Like, I know what the Bible says. I know what's right. Like, Lord, like, what am I doing with my life? But that's about all that conversation.
In your experience, does that happen probably in every addiction? You're kind of, you get to that point.
Yeah, I mean,
I sit there like, all right, what am I doing?
I think it happens in whether you're addicted to alcohol, drugs, pornography, gambling. I mean, sin. I mean, we use the word addiction, but anything I say applies to sin in general, man. Absolutely. Like, just because my downfall was alcohol, it was alcohol, but my downfall was really a lot deeper than that, and it was a sin struggle, and it was a heart issue, which we'll get to. But yeah, I just want, like, I use alcohol, but man, this can be drugs, this can be pornography, this can be gambling, this can be whatever you're struggling with in life. Like, so, but yeah, I think it is common to kind of sit there when you're in the middle of it and just be like, I know this is a problem. I don't want to be doing this anymore, but I don't see how I can stop or a way out.
And this is where you are now with this girl, trying to make
the first time around.
Okay.
Yep, just trying to make some change. But like this, still my intentions weren't like, all right, God, like I'm going to surrender to you. Like it was just sitting there, just having it like, God, like I know what's right. I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I can't stop. And that's kind of all but just even those little conversations, man, I knew the Lord was pursuing me looking back now, like preserving my life. Like, I mean, I'm driving everywhere drunk. Like, you know how many, I'm drinking and driving, and I kind of breezed over accidents and countless times I should have died. And I walked away, like I said earlier, with no consequences. But yeah, so I was like, all right, like I need to go to detox. I need to stop drinking, because at this point my body was dependent on alcohol to function. Like, it wasn't like if I stopped drinking, like I'd just have a bad headache and have a hangover, and it would I would literally start shaking and like probably would have had seizures. Like it's crazy. Like, my body needed alcohol to survive, but at the same time it was killing me.
Yeah.
So I went to detox, and I was like, all right, I went to detox I think I was there for 6 days, and got out, and I was like, all right, we're good. Like, I don't need, like, here we go. And like, while I was in there, they were trying to get me to go to meetings and things like that. And I was like, no, like I'm fine. Like it was just a little stumbling block. Like, I've only been drinking that much for 3 or 4 months, and it was like, no,
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like no normal human being would drink like that for a week, let alone 3 or 4 months. I had a problem, but I didn't see it as that. I saw, all right, I feel great. So